Morning in progress.
All right, so I'd like to call to order the November 2024 meeting of the Lower Suffolk Township Board of Supervisors and ask everyone to join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Thank you. That brings us to our first public discussion period, of which there are two on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to be recognized? None, we'll move on. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda items that are listed on the agenda.
So moved.
Second, moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Committee reports, zoning hearing board, Mr. Buki. PHB, park board, Ms. Holly.
We do not have another park board until 2025. It will be in this room on January 28th at 7 p.m. However, the park board is available if anyone has questions, concerns. Go ahead and give us an email, a call.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Fire chief,
All right, good evening, everyone.
or how are you?
All right, October fire report, we had 31 calls, 22 today, 9 at night. 12 fire alarms, 5 brush fires, 3 EMS assists, 3 office investigation, 2 dwelling fires, CO detector, electrical fire, special service, accident, and a vehicle fire. 18 in Lower Southford, 6 in Franconia, 3 in Upper Southford, 2 in Southford, 1 in Lower Frederick, and Town Hudson. We provided mutual aid 7, exceeded 6. We had a total personnel of 323. We averaged 10.6 per call and served for 15 hours, 43 minutes, and 20 seconds. Our busy October is finally over, so it was good, successful. But you know, always happy when that's behind us. Busy with brush fire because we haven't had more, honestly, with the drought we're in, but
Very good.
For those who may watch this reiteration, there is a burn ban in effect. We do not like these gentlemen to have to go out and fight brush fires. Please be
Yeah.
mindful.
started. A lot of people were having their fire not onto it, but I think everyone's aware now that right.
Don't burn.
All right, very good. Then, Freedom Valley Medical Rescue.
Hello, Mike.
Good evening, everybody. So, for the one, emergency, unfortunately, call line, the call line of, the application. It was 390, 197 transport, we have 51% transport rate. For Lower Salford. Lower Salford, we were assisting others 66 times. And we only had mutually into our area 24 times. One thing that I do want to bring to your attention, 2 things is we've moved one of our power shops, which is a 12-hour shop, 7 to 7, into the local lab, a second stock on it. We have it currently Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Along that line, speaking of shops, in late January, early February, with the excellent help of Representative Sharon and another representative will be accepting a brand new truck.
Great.
Wonderful. It will be they say late January, it's in production right now, so it's late January.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, moving right along, Communications Committee, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This past month, we did not meet due to some illnesses in the committee. However, we plan on meeting back here November 20th at 7:30 p.m. We'll be here for those in attendance and also available on Zoom.
Very good.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kev. Recreation Authority falls to me. We did meet last month. The golf course is doing spectacularly well for the year. We also prepared, looked at the draft of the budget, which we're going to approve here in December, pending any minor changes, but all is well with the golf course and play has been excellent. A lot of say what a wonderful experience they have out there on the golf course. So those folks that work the golf course should be commended. So in any event, they keep coming back, which we, like, and there's been no rain, so.
Out of curiosity, I know there's no rain, so that's maybe less mowing, but you're spending more on electricity to water.
That is correct.
Are they still watering now or do?
No, I
are we in a
believe
dormant
that,
season at this
yeah,
point?
that's turned down, and if you do play, the fairways are kind of turning brown, so
Yeah,
it's in its dormant state,
got it.
except for the green.
Course may not be quite as long, if it runs further.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah. All right, very good. Moving on to unfinished business, a recommendation to award the Arley Multi-Road Safety Restriping and Signing Upgrade grant that we received. The lowest responsible bidder was Quick Lot LLC for $119,480.60, which is the recommendation of our traffic engineer.
Right, but it is, just make sure we're accurate when we're awarding. I read the summary below, that contract was then modified down to 102,330. What am I?
Right, to keep in, so I guess it would, to match the amount of the grant that we received. if I understand.
Are we awarding the 102 then?
Well, you're awarding the 102, yes.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve an award to Quick Lot LLC in the amount of $102,330.60, which is the modified contract based on feedback from staff.
Second. Move to the second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up, recommendation for bid award snowplow for case 621G wheel loader. We had two folks bid on that, and the lowest bidder was Robert E. Little Inc. for $51,069.10, which we expect to take delivery in 6 to 8 weeks.
I'd make a motion to approve the award to Robert E. Little Inc., $51,069.10 as noted.
Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
We'll hope not getting snow until January 1st and the delivery. is,
No snow at all. Just let it go at that. Just let it go. Letter Rock Cross Road Residential Development 703-709 Harleysville Pike. Shahada, discussion of waivers only.
Well,
Hello.
Good evening.
yeah, we've been working with Forestone Consulting, Civil Engineering Project again. We were here last time discussing the same waivers. Since that time, we made a couple minor plan tweaks we discussed. One was the addition of some additional street trees or shade trees throughout the site. The other was to amend some of the radii and the width of the emergency access intersection to accommodate emergency vehicles, fire trucks getting through the site safely. Before we get into anything else, I want to back up. I don't think I maybe adequately covered the past history of this project, how we got here. We were in front of the planning commission 4 times, I believe, going back to last year. Made several plan revisions in that time. Responded to a lot of comments from township staff and consultants. That's why at this point in time, we are asking for a preliminary final approval. We have discussed all the waivers that are in front of you with the planning commission. It may not have been clear in the recommendation that they were including those waivers in the recommendation. I assure you, we did discuss each and every waiver pretty thoroughly at the last meeting with them. You know, they didn't go back to each waiver on the letter, having discussed a lot of those previous. So with that, I've had to go back through each of these waivers, address any other comments or issues, questions with the plan. We do have fresh review letters from the township consultants. There are, I think, 2 engineering comments in there remaining that we're having to work out with Michelle Fountain. Basically will comply items. She discussed being on site, discuss a driveway pipe or something that will certainly satisfy Michelle.
Michelle, based on our previous discussion on the waivers, have they made the plan changes that were suggested?
Yes, you, if you remember, you asked for 2 things as a board. You asked for them to check the turning movements of all the emergency vehicles, and they have revised the plans, and their HOP plans show those turning movements adequately. And the second item, you asked them to do is to add the fire hydrant that the fire department wanted up at the intersection, and they have done that as well.
What about the additional trees?
They have added additional trees. In fact, that's one of your waivers for street trees. At the bottom of the plan, you will see a row of evergreen trees at the bottom. They have, thank you.
Which one?
Oh, no, I got it. I got it right there, right there. Thanks, Anthony. Yes, so they added evergreen trees and dwarf oak trees. There is not enough room in there for them to add typical shade trees, so they added more than enough.
I would say up here, these 3 trees are also
Additional.
they aren't full-size shade trees due to the space limitations that for the home there. But it's something there, flowering trees, ornamental trees, if you will.
So to answer your question, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
So technically, we're at 4 shade trees short of what's required for the ordinance still.
Any other questions or comments?
I had a question about the site triangles, reducing them.
Sure.
Isn't the length of the site triangle predicated on the speed of the approach to that roadway, or is it just a random number that they come up with? Why can we reduce that and not, and still have it be safe when you pull out onto the road?
The guy sitting to your right is going to correct me if I say something wrong, but you're thinking of site distance, not a site triangle.
Okay.
A site triangle is 2 lanes on either side of the road and coming into the site, and that's what we're asking.
Which we give routine. We don't waive like this.
We are providing site distance, it's been reviewed, approved by PennDOT at this point.
Okay. Very good.
If we're not going individually through them, I did have a few that stood out. 14229, first one, basically consistent for the engineer. I think is the comment that I was reading in the review letter. I just wanted to check safety issues and all regarding it.
The comment was to refer to the traffic engineer.
Yeah,
That's right. So there, your ordinance requires a certain distance for travel lanes and then shoulders. Because this is in the village, Mr. Bronken reviewed that with Stephanie, and Stephanie is okay with this waiver. Because it's in the village, it's a more narrow travel lanes.
Compact.
Yes.
I also, and before I continue, I wanted to say, and I know I said it to you last time, sir, as well, but just, this isn't the final decision. This is consideration of waivers. Clearly, when it all comes together,
We're happy to have you build it.
We're not gonna be doing that tonight, as much as you may want us to. This is only and we're not giving you a vote on the waivers. This is only so that the staff has direction for how to prepare a eventual resolution.
And I just wanted to make that clear as well, too. Another concern I had with, and I'll just say it's a concern, is 14234E. And some of the comments were that, yes, number 3 on this as well. Some of the comments were that, it's due to what we're expected to generate. I just know that on my way here every morning, what I saw was expected to generate, and it's a different property altogether, but we had a past property on Maple expected to generate certain volume. There's, tons of school stops and stuff like that. They were expected to generate far less kids and far less people. So that's just one thing that had me concerned. 14234H, which is the grading. I had concerns with the gradings from an ADA standpoint. I understand that, we can go up there, but again, due to some ADA regulations with guidelines, exceeding a slope of 5% could lead to difficulties in navigations for people with mobility impairments. Steeper grades can increase the risk of accidents or make it impossible for some individuals to traverse safely without assistance. That's one of my concerns there as well.
Can we address that one now?
Sure.
Okay, I think you're talking about slopes for sidewalks for
Slope
the
grade on the
ADA,
sidewalk.
and that a waiver request is for the driveway slope. And it is just for an emergency access, on the southern part of the site, and they are 4% within the legal right of way, within the PennDOT legal right of way. They increase it up to 6.65 within the ultimate right of way. So from the legal to the ultimate.
Okay, I guess then maybe concerns could be that if it is an access area point or for emergency, if it's, I guess if it is compliant to ADA standards, then there could be problems as well, but I guess that's irrelevant.
It complies to your driveway slope requirements, I will say.
Another one that I had concerns with was, the sidewalks. I know I talked about it before. I know, we discussed that it could be something in the future. I know it was mentioned last time amongst us as well, that we had the letter rock study. And my take is, we don't know how long that'll be. That could be 10 years, that could be 20 years out. We even said, I think you said, could be a decade out. A decade's a whole lifetime for a child to grow up there without a sidewalk. If we have the opportunity to put it in there now, I would consider that.
Which sidewalk are you talking about?
We're talking about at the,
Just the stub at the emergency access?
correct, the 25-foot access.
That's the only,
Yes.
the 10 feet aside, is it like 10 feet of sidewalk?
142.35.
That's just
It would be best
two ramps essentially is what you can install
into grant.
on either side of the driveway.
Right, you have your pointer there?
They're sure putting sidewalk all along this frontage.
And we
So that
discussed-
side, no, you, but the waiver is just for that section. And my one question would be, I'm not sure the sidewalk, if it is ever connected at some point, it depends on how long it'll be. I mean, we've run into this before. Is it possible to grade that area appropriately so that when sidewalk would go in, if it were to go in the future, it's already graded and the sidewalk just has to go in? Because, really, there's not gonna be a meaningful use of that one little piece, because unless they put a bus stop out there.
Yes, we can. Put 2%.
That would then be a deferral, no.
Oh, correct, we're not gonna
Yes,
waive that,
yes.
it's defer the installation, but we've run into where we've deferred it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't graded properly, and then it
Understood.
becomes a hullabaloo, technical term, and.
4% cross slope right now is the driveway slope. You want that at 2% to accommodate a sidewalk in that area.
Yeah, and in the grass area just off of it, so it's graded appropriately so that it won't be difficult to install. Michelle, you know what we're looking for, right?
Yeah,
That's a little more difficult down here especially because the grade requirement. The approach on the next property to the south.
Yeah, it's pretty, it would be a pretty good cut in there, wouldn't
Be
it?
a good cut. And if you're gonna install a sidewalk there in the future, I think you could be cutting that embankment off the side of the road. To get anything in there if roads ever widen or the sidewalk is put in at that point in time.
And this is what I was getting at as well. I know we discussed it last time too, with the deferral, I would be okay seeing something like that. But again, at the same point, if that's something that, that'll be more difficult, then it comes on us if we're doing this down the line for the letter.
Well, actually, technically, it'll be on the homeowners association, because that's who's gonna get, no, but I'm saying, I don't wanna leave that to the homeowners
Right, and then-
association. Michelle, did you have a
Especially in regards
suggestion?
say that we could work out the grading, I believe, within the right of way, because I do want to decide on grading yet, because we still have to determine whether or not he needs a driveway cross pipe.
Okay,
That's one of the things we have to discuss in the stormwater. I asked for a cross pipe, he doesn't think one is necessary, and so I suggested we meet out at the site to determine if it's necessary.
gist of this, deferral and have it ready for sidewalk installation.
No, I appreciate that. And as you said, just that 25 feet there, that it's just that 25 feet that I'm at to do. The only other thing, obviously, I've had, and I said to you before, is, waiving preliminary and final. I think having these 13 different waivers here is one testament of one reason why we shouldn't consider that, go through the preliminary and make sure everything's crossed off. That's another one I have an issue with, but other than that, I do want to also say, I appreciate you putting in that fire hydrant and working on that exit, as discussed last time. There's something important that's brought up by a member of our fire department, and I think it's,
Mike would ask for that.
I appreciate that got in there, and along with the extra fees.
There are two hydrants going in, one is up at the intersection. And the second one is right here.
Right. Mhm.
This was a discussion because there's another hydrant about 80 feet away from it to the south. But Mr. Harwego, had noted that a truck would pull into the emergency access and use the hydrant conveniently.
Grab the pike and put, grab it and come out. And we appreciate that, but that is an area that's a little underserved and
Yeah.
beneficial to have.
I yield to our fire. But that, they're my concerns, and that's why I want to bring it up. Thank you.
I think you got a general sense of where we're at with this.
Work out the remaining items with Michelle, and we'll see you when you come back.
One other thing, did we look at, the discharge from the basin. We talked about that before.
Yes.
And
Specifically,
it-
I'm not sure what the.
Well, we're increasing the volume of that basin quite a bit, so in order to drain that over time, it's gonna drain out onto the field down below. And I don't know about those neighbors there, but I wouldn't want my field to be soaking wet for 4 days. Is there some sort of swale down through there?
Not an adverse impact to the name.
Yes, your ordinance requires that the rate of stormwater runoff not be increased with this development. And they have to prove to us, and they have thus far proven to us that there is no greater rate of runoff coming off the site because of this development. And they are also doing volume control within the site too. So not only are they controlling the rate, they're controlling the volume of runoff too. And that's ordinance requirement here in the township, and it's also a Montgomery County Conservation District requirement.
I understand it, but what I'm saying is now, say, the volume coming out of the basin before, that probably a quarter of it's going to be thrown out, ground, okay? Maybe it's 3 times or 4 times as much as it used to be. So it's coming out at the same rate. So it'd be like turning a hose on for 4 or 5 days instead of just a day. And I'm afraid of that coming down the hill to the next neighbor's yard and him trying to cut his grass later and have nothing but a mud pit.
Is there an existing channel in the adjacent?
That's what I was worried. There's some sort of swale running down there. It's not gonna be an issue.
It's a broad swale, but it's a swale. And as it heads south toward the golf course, it
Channel it.
turns into more of a channel.
Okay, well, that's what I'm concerned about. I just didn't want it to impact the neighbors in some adverse way, that's all. As long as
Have you
that
received
control.
your conservation district permit?
No, we've met with them for pre-application meeting. They had no red flags at that meeting.
That issue will also be addressed.
Okay.
It will be-
He's required to get that too, yeah.
They make us trace it all the way down the street.
Yeah.
Tell them.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure, like I said, it wasn't going towards the back of somebody's house. Extra deck or something.
It's not going to the house, no.
Yeah,
It
okay.
is the existing discharge from a basin that's there.
No, I understand. I just said, like I said, if it was going into a field that somebody's trying to cut the grass.
Yep.
It's okay to keep it wet for a day, but if it's 4 or 5 days, now it's just gonna be, a mess. So,
It's not even okay to keep it wet for a day.
No.
That's not how it was. So
I understand.
20 years ago,
Yeah.
we only worried about rate. Now we're worried about volume
Yep.
too.
Yep.
So that cuts down on your question about hose running for longer.
Right.
Although the rate is less. Controlling the volume of runoff, getting it underground helps to control that problem that you're talking about.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. All right, next up to bat, 196 Main Street, remaining conditional use requirements, architecture of bank and trash enclosure screening. I love this topic.
Which one?
I don't know. I think it's
So,
the first.
yeah, one housekeeping issues on this project, it's been in front of you a number of times, in one form or another. When we received our conditional use approval, there was a specific condition on the bank architecture that we make an amendment to it. To break up what was kind of a large stone block area on the rear. Do you have the architecture? Okay. I sent you a slightly revised one. Okay, that's it. That is the revised architectural that was intended to meet the condition that was applied during the conditional use, and basically it's the addition of the pent roof. If you look at the upper right, it's the right side of that building. Keep going to your right, like right there. So originally that was kind of a large cube of wall stone, yeah. So not only did they add the roof, they changed the material, so it'd be stone below the roof and then a cement board siding on the top, so to further break it up. That little shed addition to the right, farther to the right, is basically where the drive up ATM is located. There is no drive up window here, it's just an ATM. So, from a housekeeping standpoint, want to make sure that that condition is adequately addressed.
And that's basically mirrored in on the side we're seeing below.
Correct.
That roof. Yep.
Yeah, and it's consistent with.
Yep. It looks a ton better.
Good
It
job.
actually does put a ton better.
And hopefully they'll make that their standard wherever they go.
I think I've heard several times that this doesn't meet any of our prototypical architecture. so.
We get that a lot.
I don't know whether this requires a formal decision or it'll just be incorporated into our eventual resolution of approval, which obviously we're not asking for at this point in time, but
Correct. Or that,
that.
Jim?
It'll be in the minutes, I don't know. I mean, it's incorporated.
We
It's
like
just
it when
one of
the
those
plans-
things.
Yeah, but I think that what, as an exhibit to the conditional use decision, the architectural exhibit was not correct, so is this an amendment to the conditional use decision to include that exhibit as the exhibit for the approval?
Or is it more an extension?
Could you? It's a condition imposed by you, it's board on a conditional use, the architecture had to satisfy you.
We'll do that as the final agreement, we'll do that in the landowner.
Right, you can't reopen the hearing, there's nobody here to cross-examine or anything, so. I guess what they're saying is that it's approved
I know, you've met these, let's stand.
and it's in the minute.
And the bank is proceeding. The second aspect is our trash enclosures, and it's, as far as I know, unique to the RO district, where if you have outside storage of trash, which we do on our site, primarily because it's not practical to have individual trash receptacles for every use on the property.
This is just the commercial section. Or just for both, okay.
Requires approval from the Board of Supervisors. I sent some pictures. So there are two locations. There is one for the apartment units. Which is to the left, right back there. So that'll have a 6-foot solid fence all the way around it. Plus there's a lot of landscaping in that area. There's a site element screen around it in addition to the fence, which are
When you
arborvitae.
say all the way around it, 4 sides.
No, the sides that don't have paving. So
Okay,
between the
So it's
rear,
buffered from the neighbors, but not from on-site.
correct. Other than the fence itself, and the fence will have a gate as well. So the landscaping that's not paved will have arborvitae on either side of the fence. Happens to be a medium density buffer and parking lot landscaping there, so there's an entire space to the left. I mean, the residential neighbor and this is all landscaping, actually, that whole yard area.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on my question. My question was, are all 4 sides fenced?
Yes,
Thank you.
all 4 sides are fenced, even the side that's accessed for the trash collection will have a gate.
Gotcha.
Which side will the gate be on, Mr.?
180 degrees from the residential neighbor, so it'll be facing the parking area.
That's a double gate.
Yes,
And are you planning on dumpsters or hoppers?
when you say hopper, you mean
The individual, yeah, the totes, yeah.
dumpster.
Two, so a recycling and
One
a trash.
recycle, one trash receptacle. It's 22 feet wide, and it would be the identical scenario on the other side. If you recall, when this was in front of the board, I think during the conditional use procedure, we had a third dumpster area at the bank. And board asked us to go back to the bank, see if that could be eliminated. They consented to that, and we eliminated the third location. That would have been on that drive-through lane in that area.
All right, now this is what raised my question. What is the black thing around the,
Retaining wall.
There's also
oh, that's
a-
the wall. Okay,
There's a
thank you.
wall, so there's a
Okay.
fence, there's landscaping, there's a wall. And it's a similar thing there, there's replacement trees, buffer trees, site element screen around the dumpster area, so there's considerable amount of landscaping in that. That is not a residential property line, that's a daycare to the other side,
And then again, it's completely fenced.
4 sides.
Is that a retaining wall? Looks like
Yes.
it's next to the swale there, so, okay.
It's a retaining wall, it's a 0 feet high on each end, and I think it's maybe 5 feet at the highest.
I wasn't able to decipher with the photos, but what kind of gate mechanism is
You
there?
showed-
Latches, how is it locked up?
Yes, it'll be a latch, that'll lock it. The operator will have to actually physically open the gate, or if somebody's accessing it, they'll have to open the gate and then shut it again.
And the tenants are using the front gate also? There's no
Yes.
rear gate, no man gate?
There is not. The only thing that's different is we have a little less slope on our site, so there's a gap on the bottom. Is dramatically wider.
But the gate, I guess the question is for the residents, the apartments, that gate's appropriate. I mean, that's standard for them to use that without having a man gate somewhere to get in.
Now, I haven't considered a man gate. I think that could be a consideration, just to have to avoid opening the large gate.
People get lazy and then what will happen is, they're just gonna take the trash and toss it over the fence.
Or they pile it in front of the gate.
Or you run into somebody, break their arm, can't, leg, and then crush it, struggles to. do the whole
So
thing.
the recommendation is add a man gate
Right.
as well.
Or I've also seen, you can actually get the design, so it's it's an asymmetrical 3/3 or 1/3, 2/3 gate.
Yeah, smaller leaf on the one side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Just
as bug me for eternity, but.
That's an individual. Father's worst engineer from every moment you look at it. Yes. I mean. And these are not heavy gate. I mean, they're made out of vinyl fencing. It's not a heavy gate. I get it, but it's just from a practical standpoint. The other one, you have two 11-foot gates, the 22-foot wide opening. That's fairly sizable, be swinging every time a person's bringing their little bag of trash out.
Or left open, or overstuff the trash can, then it's wide open and you got parking issues.
I think it's a reasonable.
Just suggestion, yeah. Because the other enclosure is not as big as this, correct? The commercial one is not as large as the residential one, or are they both exactly the same? Are they really gonna need that much trash disposal for the commercial?
I think as soon as you get two units inside the same enclosure, you need some space.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
You gotta have space between them, space on either side. So that's generating the size of the enclosure.
Okay.
You can also have, somebody decide something else needs to be recycled.
Yeah. Is there some sort of a bollard or a curb or something that these dumps go back up into? Cause,
At the back of the unit
Yeah.
that protects the fence, you mean?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cause dumpster doesn't go. flying.
Inevitably, they push it right through.
Very good. Very attractive though,
Yeah,
Rick. Good color.
in keeping.
Any other thing on that? So the other thing I wanted to do, which is the next item, I think. is
Preliminary plan, discussion of waivers only.
Just waivers, yeah, and just a front discussion. I'm asking for any decisions, but. The letter that was submitted was last revised September 25th, and I always treat these as a work in progress. That's why there's cross outs and highlights. In the first waiver, initially, we thought that we were going. Ironically, there is landscaping required between the parking area and the building. Kind of a perimeter landscaping around the parking lot for the residential buildings, but not for the commercial buildings. We had thought we were gonna ask for relief from that requirement. We decided to do it. So that first waiver, we believe we're complying with, so we're no longer requesting that. Sidewalks, for the site, we are proposing sidewalk that meets the ordinance along both frontages in its entirety, including ADA crosswalks at all the driveway crossings. The only technical waiver we're requesting, it's somewhat similar to the last application, is just for the few feet between where we can stop the sidewalk. This rents for $25 an hour. And who's coming up behind?
Mike, appreciate it. Point that mouse to the laser. That won't be able to see the screen. Thank you. I saw you did that with the last one. Thanks.
So. You guys see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
So I'm colorblind.
Get somebody else to point.
Mike, you have the pointer and just point to the two ends of the sidewalk.
me to use.
Rick, he's pointing to up to the top. No, he's talking at the very top, Mike, on along
Top left.
Quarry, right
Right
there.
So in order we're in a cut situation there because we're meeting the sidewalk grade requirements. So it's just that white gap in the edge of the sidewalk and the property line. And we'll use that space to go back to the original grade. So technically, we're not going all the way to the property line. And that's so we don't have to do any grading on the neighboring tract. And it's an identical situation at our other property line on Quarry Road. That's really the waiver request.
So what will that look like at the end?
It's grass, just raised up.
Slope up to.
It'll be a slope up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll just be a sidewalk end. I would say that's a fairly typical treatment of the sidewalk.
Not sure anybody's ever asked for a waiver.
I think,
Well, it
For
appeared
4
on
feet of
the
sidewalk.
letters too, so we had to cover it.
yeah, I think for this particular area, I would like to see the sidewalk and the grading, same comment really as the previous one in that respect. And, you know, if we meet the requirement, we wouldn't be requesting a waiver to that extent. You know, we have a reason that I understand there's a big grading issue, but we don't know.
Big grading issue, it's just a grading issue, so.
And respectfully, I appreciate, and we talked about this before at the PC as well, you have sidewalk in there that we are allowing for pedestrian access. At the same time, though, I imagine, especially with that Wawa there, people are just gonna run right across if there's a sidewalk or not. They're not gonna waste the time to zigzag through. Even though they run across the White Pike.
I'm not sure I'll follow that.
Yeah, I'm saying at some point in the future, and I'm thinking future wise, I would like to see the sidewalk now when people are using it, you know, having an option.
Kevin, the only issue is he's stopping like a foot and a half from the property line just to make a grade transition.
So there's not.
So the only thing that would happen was if he put the foot in, yeah, only it's a deferral.
And that's.
be a deferral.
I would want.
Yeah.
And I meant the same thing as the
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah, so before you have the final grading with Michelle, but we'll just defer that last 2 feet, yeah.
And just to be clear, the entirety of the frontage.
Oh, what's-
That side, including crossings at traffic.
Good job.
Good call.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever waiving sidewalks ever again. But yeah, if it's ever anything, it's a deferral. I'm pretty close to ever.
Next waiver is with regard to tree preservation, so. Every tree that we're physically removing, we've gone through the replacement calculations, there is one specimen tree. Which is a tree that's greater than 24 inches, that is required to be replaced at a 3-to-1 ratio, which is substantial. We're complying with that requirement as well. The only relief we're looking for, and it's primarily in the lower left corner of the property, there's existing trees in that area. And the ordinance requires you to not only preserve them, but to not do any construction within 20 feet of them to count them as preserved. So all that we're asking for is if we're not removing the tree, that we consider it preserved from a tree replacement calculation. We did review that with the planning commission, and their only comment, which is something we would agree to, is that we enter into an agreement to replace the tree if it ever dies. Which I think is a reasonable requirement.
Did they say ever
I was
or
just gonna
within
say
a,
ever.
or within a certain period
Ever.
after construction? I don't think ever is
I
a
like
reasonable.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're talking about here.
Maybe the maintenance.
I think one of the
Required maintenance period.
one of the reasons that we have that in there is because they say that any tree with the survival rate with the construction, it might kill the tree. So saying, okay, for the next 2 years.
Yeah, well, before the maintenance period, I think we're fine with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that, like, you know, as long as we have, we could do forever, 1 to 2.
And, you know, from my personal experience, public.
I've read it. I just won that.
If that, they may not be public improvement.
Side slope.
Side slopes? No,
Basin side slopes, we are asking for a waiver.
Okay, wait, let's one at a time. We just agreed to stay alive for the public improvement maintenance period, even though they're not public improvements.
Yeah,
To the required improvement. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Per the way Andy writes the agreement, the required improvements aren't necessarily public improvements, and thus there'll be an 18-month maintenance period on it.
I don't want to know about it.
Exactly.
Back to basic science.
Basin side slopes, there's two basins on our site. It's the gray shaded areas on either side of the drainage feature that goes through our property. And we meet the slope requirements on the insides of the basin. We're asking for a waiver between to go from 4-to-1 slope to 3-to-1 slope on the outside. Just to meet the grading requirements, it allows us to make the bottoms as large as possible, which is actually a good design aspect, particularly for these water quality basins. It also allows us to keep the basin shallow. On the right basin, that slope would be from the outside of the berm, basically down to the sidewalk and the curb.
I have no issue with that. 3-to-1 is more than reasonable even for maintenance purposes.
Yeah, it's a allowable slope and everywhere up.
Everywhere up,
So,
yeah, that's,
I don't see that being a problem.
And we did also review that pretty thoroughly with the planning commission as well. Their next waiver is minimum pipe size. Ordinance requires 18-inch pipe. We have two areas on our site where we're requesting 15-inch pipe, just because they're lawn inlets, small drainage areas. One is between the left apartment building that you can see right there. If you go down to the bottom, Mike, right there, that square is an inlet. There's another inlet to the left of it, so it's just the pipe length that connects those two inlets. It's a short piece of pipe, goes under the sidewalk. And then the second area is next to the bank on the corner, same situation. It's a yard inlet. It's basically the middle of the bank wall. Up top and higher.
neither of these are being dedicated to the township. They're all private maintenance. Michelle, you have any issues?
And that is the last waiver I'm going to discuss. The last waiver on the letter is not, we're going to delete that one, that can be crossed.
I just want to specify again that these are just considerations and no opinion yet. Did you bring this?
To highlight, you were bringing it in a preliminary plan approval first?
I think you get the result. That was doing that. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to new business. Resolution 2024-17, a resolution authorizing application to the 2024 PICO Green Region Open Space Program bonus round for the Green and Glow solar LEDs and tree plantings at Park Avenue Fields project.
Make a motion to approve what he said.
Second.
2024-17.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up, motion to accept planning module for 645 Store Road. This sounded to me almost like a bit of a formality and
It says, is it accepting the planning module or approving the resolution to submit the planning module?
It is. Yeah.
That's it. Okay. It would be specifically, it would be to accept the planning.
Correct. It's not a resolution because it is for an on-lot system. It is the Board of Supervisors tasked to approve the planning module.
But so we're accepting it, meaning we're approving it.
Correct,
Okay. And you've reviewed it.
correct, yes.
But this is, the county health department has to approve this also. Okay,
It is for an individual spray irrigation system that will never be installed at this site. But because that is a conventional system and the only conventional system that will work on this site, in order to move this process along, you have to approve this planning module. Once you approve it, DEP approves it, they're gonna come back in and say, forget that, we're gonna put micro mounts in, which is an alternative system.
essentially it's a formality.
Correct.
And by approving this, we're not approving anything that
You are-
this plan is doing. This isn't necessary for regardless. of-
just purely for septic plan.
Purely for permitting purposes.
Make a motion to accept the
Real
planning
quick,
module.
Michelle, do you have any other comments where, I saw your review as well, but you're in agreement. Things, okay,
For you to sign this planning module.
thank you.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Authorization to advertise the 2025 budget prepared by Mr. Jakowski and reviewed by us.
I'd just like to say that staff did a great job in getting us the budget, going through the details, and I would like to make a motion to authorize advertise the 2025 budget.
I'll second that, and I will also second the motion on the staff's hard work on that budget.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Feel free to advertise. Next up, resolution 2024-18 approving Freedom Valley's request for consent for the sale of 3 ambulances. And Mike is gone.
One question I had for Pat, I see you left. One of the things said that it sells for this if we can get it to start and run. Could they get it to start and run?
I have no idea.
I think they are, but I
They
think
can-
repeat that.
they repeated
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-18.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up, motion to appoint to the vacancy board. Currently Doug Gifford serves as that position, and he has since moved out of the township, so we'd like to put forth Doug Johnson as his replacement, so to speak.
Make a motion to approve Mr. Johnson as the new vacancy board member.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. That brings us to our second discussion period of the evening. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to be recognized?
Sure, we should have probably noted with the budget authorization, just for the sake of people in the audience or those watching, there is no general fund tax increase to the budget proposed. There are 2 smaller tax increases, but one for the fire fund and one for the ambulance fund to adequately support both of those critical emergency services in the community.
Yeah, shame on me for burying the lead, but that is the lead. of the budget.
Yeah, if I may add.
Moved so quickly, I think.
Follow up to that, can watch our previous work sessions where we do discuss the budget at length. Again, I spent well done, Joe.
With that, no one wishing to be recognized for the discussion period. Mr. Jakowski, do we have need for executive session this evening?
Yeah, we solicited that for a brief executive session to discuss, issue of possible litigation.
Very good. We will adjourn then, potentially to
And we will not.
and we will not return, to a executive session. With that, Mr. Gary, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move the second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.